Well, I guess we're past. I was waiting for Audrey's little message, but I guess we're just going to get going. So, thanks everyone for coming to our presentation. My name is Brian Shepard. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Broadband Office, and I'm also the state point of contact for the FirstNet initiative. And so what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about FirstNet in terms of where the state is. The folks at FirstNet and AT&T give a great overview right before me on kind of the background, the history, and the big picture. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what FirstNet is and how we got here. If you have questions on that, you can come talk to myself or Justin Shore in the background, or Garrett leave. I think Garrett left. There's Garrett. Or Jen Price about kind of the background. So. Before I get started, I want to introduce also my FirstNet team, Kim Coleman-Madsen, Ed Mills, and Sarah Smith in the back there. They're the reason we are at where we're at, and probably the best team we have. And considering there's only 4 of us, I'm quite proud of what we've done in the past 5 years. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, like I said, where we're at with FirstNet, what the state's perspective is. But what I really want to get into is this idea of critical communications. And I'm going to explain what I mean about critical communications, and how, well, FirstNet is important to that. It's only one element of what critical communications really looks like moving forward. So to start with, where are we at with this FirstNet initiative? Everyone talks about opt-in, opt-out. I get people telling me all the time, oh, you're already opting out. And I say, well, it's kind of hard to opt out of something you don't even know what it is yet. So one of the guiding things about how I've approached FirstNet is the decision we make at the end of this year, we'll get the timelines, will impact public safety and emergency communications for 25 years. This truly is a generational type decision. And the way the federal statute was set up wasn't our choice, but that's the way it's set up. We get one shot at this. All right, there's no going back. If you choose one path and it doesn't work out, too bad. You can't go back and choose the other path, vice versa. So we really have to put some thought into this, and this is really, really, really critical. So from a programmatic perspective, and AT&T and FirstNet talked a little about this, we're expecting our draft state plan, our initial state plan, in the week of June 19th. Now what is that? That is basically when AT&T will come to us and say, this is what opting in looks like. This is what the coverage looks like. This is what the operational model looks like. This is what the costs look like. Here's year 1, here's year 2, here's year 5. Here's all the parameters. Here's how we're going to use local assets. Here's our approach. So really it tells us what we expect if we opt in. Now there's 45 days that we can take a look at that state plan and say, okay, we like this, this is, that'll work, this definitely won't work, we got to talk about this, and kind of give and take for 45 days and give them feedback. FirstNet and AT&T then have 45 days to basically take all of our input and say, okay, we're going to modify the initial state plan, and then boom, here's the final state plan. So the final state plan should be on the governor's desk no later than middle of September. What that does is that initiates the 90-day shot clock that the federal statute has for the governor to make the opt-in and opt-out decision. So essentially by the middle of September, we'll have what opting in really looks like from a functional, programmatic, cost, technological perspective. And with that 90 days, so basically we can expect by the end of the year, by the middle of December, and we appreciate FirstNet and AT&T modifying the plan, because at first it was December 31st. We were like, are you seriously going to have this decision be due during the holidays? So they kind of bumped it up. So either way, we can be done with it and go celebrate Christmas. So by the end of the year, we will know kind of what path our state is going down. And one caveat on this, this was brought up by Justin in the previous discussion, no matter what the state does, the state opts in or opts out or does nothing, no local jurisdiction is mandated to follow the state's path. If we opt in and a local jurisdiction says, you know what, I still like my T-Mobile or my Verizon service, they can stick with that. There's no requirement that local jurisdiction use this network. Either way, opt in or opt out, vice versa. If we say the state's going to opt out, a local jurisdiction can say, are you crazy? Well, we're going to go with AT&T anyways. So again, in our state, and I think everyone knows in our state, we tend to be a bit independent, especially at a local level, as Miriam laughs. And we want to do our own thing. So that's kind of what our approach is being. So what are we doing right now? We're actually having a great conversation with AT&T. We've met several times. Ken, right here in the front row, one of their lead engineers, is here in Colorado, so we're very lucky. We've been talking about technology, what works, what doesn't work, what do they want, what do we want. We really have some good discussion. So what we want to do is basically say, when that initial state plan hits, we've actually already worked through some of the key issues, and there's no surprises in there. We also threw out an RFP, and I'll talk about that in a minute, for an alternative plan. I've often said, the law gave the governors a choice. Now, if I give you a choice and I said, here's option A, fully vetted, soup to nuts, here's the cost, here's the details, and I gave you option B, and I said, well, it kind of looks like this, but we're not sure, and we have to do some more research, and it could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. Is that really a choice? No. So what our approach has been is we want 2 fully vetted options out there. Because again, I go back to that thing that drives us. This is going to impact us for the next 25 years. So we want to make the right decision. And what we're also doing, we've have some consultants on board that we want to develop an analysis toolkit. So we want to be able to hand this toolkit. What's going on here? We want to be able to hand this toolkit to a local jurisdiction and say, here's the AT&T state plan. All right, here's how you would analyze it from your local jurisdiction perspective. You tell us, do you like this plan? Are you likely to adopt this? Because again, we want this to be locally driven. We have a governing body that manages this whole process that's made up of local sheriffs, local police chiefs, local fire chiefs, EMS folks, 911 folks, people representing urban areas, people representing rural areas, the state, counties, municipalities. So really every cut of the state is representing this. And so we want them to tell us, yes, this looks great. If we throw this out, the state plan, even if I say, I don't like this state plan, but if everyone across the state says, actually, no, we really like this state plan, my job is not to make the decision. My job is to convene everyone and get the input to the governor. So that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that local jurisdictions have a thorough way to look at this and say, this is what we want to do from our perspective. So the alternative plan, as I mentioned, we have an RFP. Initial responses were due back early this month. We had 2 responses for the RFP. We basically staged it. We said stage 1 is really requirements. A lot of the folks in this space have been RFI'd and RFP'd to death over the last 5 years, and we realized that that's a lot of cost for these companies, and so we said, just this first phase, we don't want to spend millions of dollars, actually designing a network, unless we think we're actually going to potentially do this opt-out. So this first round, just kind of tell us about your company and let us judge if you can actually pull this off. We received 2 responses, one from a company called Rivada, who bid on a national contract, and then one from a company called Macquarie Capital. They're a large infrastructure provider, and actually done some things in the broadband space. So right now we have a group of folks kind of reviewing these initial stage 1 applications. Depending if one or both of them are qualified for stage 1, essentially once we get that draft state plan, if we see holes in that draft state plan, we'll initiate stage 2, which is to basically say, okay guys, now's the time. We actually want to see the network you're going to give us. We actually want to see the cost of this thing. Tell us the details, and we can make that decision going forward. All right, so what are our priorities? Another thing that drives us is my job is to look out for Colorado's responders. There's a lot of talk about national interoperability. And while interoperability is critical, I can tell you the number of times that the New York City Police Department has helped a Colorado jurisdiction is exactly 0. So I really don't care about interoperating with New York or Florida. What I do care about is, and you'll see it in a minute, I care about if the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department can interoperate with Douglas County Sheriff's Department. I care about if on the Eastern Plains, if Yuma County Sheriff can interoperate with Kansas. That's what I care about. And so what I care about is Colorado's first responders. So the biggest thing we talk about is coverage. And when we look at this, the promise of this was true statewide coverage. Now, can we ever cover 100% of our states? No, but we think we can come close. Now, when we say cover, there's a caveat to that. Will you ever be able to walk around with your iPhone on top of Mount Elbert and get signal? No. But the great thing about this is there's new technology. There's people making high-powered devices, man packs that you can throw in the back of your backpack that really essentially are like a mobile hotspot and a repeater. And so with these technologies, we can get basic coverage. So we can get a search and rescue team. Can we get them 10 meg constant download? No. Could we potentially get them a meg or 2 where they can actually do some basic communications? I think we can in a large part of the state. So that's what we've been focusing on, is true statewide coverage. My other hat is rural broadband, which is why we're here. One of the things, and I think those folks in the rural areas, would attest to this for over and over again, and this is one of the things I've been pushing. Don't tell me that you're going to give the urban areas a nice, shiny new Lexus, and go to the rural areas and give me a 10-year-old Toyota that you've spruced up a little bit and say it's the same thing. It's not, okay? Do they both get you from A to B? Maybe, but there's a big difference there. And so when we look at this, we need true rural coverage. A couple other anecdotes on that. Does anyone know in rural jurisdictions from a law enforcement perspective what one of the most stressful calls is when they get that call? Any idea?
Domestic violence.
Thank you. Yep. So domestic violence. So in a lot of our rural areas, there's maybe 2 deputies on staff. So when they get a domestic violence call, essentially one deputy has to go up there. And a lot of times they walk up or they drive up to a place and then they got to walk about a quarter mile because they're in a ranch or they're somewhere that's gated and they lose communications. So you have one deputy walking in to an area where you have no idea what's going on. You might know there's a history of domestic violence there. You may know this person has guns or not. And that one person has to walk into that. It's one of the most dangerous situations. If you look at statistics, things that go bad, traffic stops and domestic violence. Those are day-to-day things, right? These are 9/11s. These aren't Hurricane Katrina. These aren't wildfires. These are things that happen every single day. And so we have to design this network. We have to think about the big catastrophes, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but we also have to think about day-to-day. That's what this network is here for, day-to-day. The other thing, we talk about coverage. I just looked it up recently. Last year, there were 1,725 search and rescue missions in our state. That equates to 5 a day. So there's every single day, there are 5 search and rescue missions in our state. So the idea that we can simply have these assets that we call when needed, we'd spend the whole time driving them around the state constantly. Okay, and I guarantee you, on weekends, that 5 a day goes up a lot more. And so when we look at what happens in our state, we really need true statewide coverage. Customer partner. For years, public safety, they've been very closed. Their LMR systems are closed, they build them, they operate them, they maintain them, no one touches them, no one even breathes on them, unless you can do the secret handshake. We realize, as public safety, with this new wireless revolution, that model is done, okay? Public safety is not, I'm not gonna walk down to the state legislature and say, hey guys, can you give me $300 million so I can build my own wireless network that no one touches? That's not gonna happen. So we understand that there's this need to move away from this proprietary, closed mechanism to a more open. That said, just simply being a paying customer, which is what we are now. Basically right now we pay T-Mobile or Verizon or AT&T or Viero some money and they provide service. That's it. So but when you look at what this is going to become, we need that to be more of a partnership, a true partnership. And to me, when you talk about this in a partnership perspective, especially in public safety, you say, don't tell me what you're going to do in the best. Don't tell me how it's going to work when things are great. Tell me how you are going to react when you fall face down flat on your face and you screwed up and you realize it, but there's still something that's going on. And you have to get back up in the middle of that and work with us to get it done. That's what we want to see is how are you going to react when things go really, really bad? Because we know they are going to go really, really bad. And finally, scalable capacity. So when we did our demonstration up in Vail a while back, the FBI came in and they had this really cool technology that they hadn't really been able to use much because none of the commercial carriers were supported. There were these cameras, but they're not video cameras. They take like 1,000 still pictures a second. So that if something does happen, they can actually get a clean picture. Because anyone that's tried to go through video and stop it at a frame, it doesn't work very well unless you've got super HD cameras. Thing is, these cameras took 15 megs dedicated each. Each camera took 15 megs dedicated. And so as we progressed, we think about things what happened yesterday in London, and I was actually just in London, and their surveillance, everyone knows about London surveillance. It is probably the most surveilled community in the world. That is coming here. And so are we going to be able to scale this network when all of a sudden the FBI comes in and says, hey, I got 10 of these cameras, and you will support them, okay? And now we got to support everything else as well. Okay, so that's where we're at with the FirstNet piece and kind of our perspective. Now, the other element of this is that it's just one piece of this. As I mentioned, this is really a revolution for public safety communications. Public safety really communicated the same way for about 80 years. A two-way walkie-talkie. You press the button, you talk, you hear back. And when you think about it, could you do your job if that's all you had? I would say no. And so this is really revolutionizing everything. Some of the things that we're looking at, next generation 911, Lynn has some bruises and battle scars from dealing with this for the last 12 years. But our 911 network in our state is very functional. It works very well for what it was meant to do. Unfortunately, it was designed 40 years ago when the newfangled technology was you could actually buy your own phone from the Bell company versus having to buy the Bell phone telephone company. So it's kind of antiquated, and we've got to change this. And 911 is getting more and more integrated with emergency communications. It's gone from a dispatch center where someone just takes a phone call and relays the message to essentially being a communications hub and a strategic element center, much like you would think of command center in the military. The information is coming in and has to get pushed out, and it's growing exponentially. So we got to figure out how to integrate that with this whole thing. Intelligent transportation. Anyone that talks to CDOT, I was actually listening to Shaylin yesterday on the way coming up. We can't build our way out of this thing anymore. The only way to fix the transportation issue in our state is through technology. And that technology is going to be critical to how we integrate public safety. So think about how reliant public safety is on the roads. When I ran a 911 center, I used to say in a blizzard, that snowplow became a first responder. Because if I got an ambulance call, I couldn't get to that house unless that road was plowed. And so these things are dynamic, and we've got to integrate that. I'll talk a minute about how we're already doing that. Other elements, public school and public transportation. Every day in this state, there's 700,000 kids that get bused to school. There's a lot that could go wrong in our state. Again, thinking about the snowstorm last night, busing all these kids, all those need to be connected, and they will be connected. Every day in RTD down in Denver, there's over 330,000 riderships in the public transportation system every day. RTD is actually one of the leaders in this. I mean, I think the technology RTD uses to track people, to monitor events, blows away any public safety jurisdiction we have. They've really made an investment in that. But we need to combine that. We need to take all that information and put it into one system so that it's not public safety, it's not cops trying to figure out fire, trying to figure out EMS, trying to talk to RTD. It's a holistic thing. So an example of this, as I mentioned, so right now, the Colorado State Patrol and CDOT have developed a mechanism where during a blizzard, the Colorado State Patrol will station their patrol cars in areas where CDOT has not plowed because they figure there's more likely to be an accident where CDOT hasn't plowed. So they put their cars there. Yeah, duh. You know, but what does that take? That takes real-time communication between CDOT and State Patrol. Now imagine something else. Imagine once CDOT gets all their sensors in the roads. Imagine we can know what roads are freezing and what roads aren't freezing. CDOT can get out to those roads better. Imagine CDOT working with local county jurisdictions to say, hey guys, you know what? We're stuck doing I-70. Could another county come up and do another state road so we can get these things plowed quicker so we don't have 300-car pileups on I-70. And we don't do this. So there's all these things we can look into. You think about public health. Again, when I was running an I-1 center, public health had this little device on our roof, and they just asked us, and one day they said, yeah, we're just tracking health, the air quality. We said, okay, great. And then we noticed that the guy came out every single morning, and we're like, seriously? We're monitoring the air quality that much? And the guy goes, well, we're doing a little more than monitoring air quality. Well, it turns out it was a pathogen monitor. And the guy basically told us, he said, yeah, so since you're now one center, we're putting this on there. It was a biological weapons sensor. And so the guy said, yeah, if this thing goes off, you guys are in trouble. And so, to be able to respond to that and get that information out there could save lives. We think back to the floods. What if we could have remote sensors along the dams for the floods in 2013? Wouldn't have stopped the floods, but would we maybe have 10 minutes extra that we could have known that these dams are about to break? Probably. Could have saved a few lives, could have saved some things. So this all really corresponds into information flow moving forward. So as I mentioned, this is really a changing landscape for public safety. For years and years and years, they've relied on what we call mobile radio. Again, your two-way walkie-talkie. And the LMR diehards in the room will throw tomatoes at me for this, but really, it's the same technology we store on the beaches of Normandy with. Again, a little more fancy, we digitize it, but again, it's you push a button, you listen, you talk, that's it. So what we've talked about, and this graphic is actually really old from Homeland Security, but I think it's really great. What we're really looking at doing is, so we have our traditional mobile radio networks that will continue to exist while this network gets built out. So what we've previously done is say we've used commercial networks for data and wireless and cellular communications. And by the way, if you talk to most police officers or firefighters, especially the ones under 40, they will say, I communicate more on my cell phone than I do my radio anymore. Just because they actually hate it, because it doesn't fit their life, it doesn't fit what they've grown up with. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to say, okay, rather than have just a purely commercial, let's move towards our remote radio network and our public safety grade network so that we can rely on it. We know it's going to be there. We know it's not going to go down. We know we're not going to drop a call. But eventually, these will merge. These will become one essential network. Now that may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, it may take 20 years. It will likely vary depending on if you're in an urban area or a rural area. If you're in an urban city, and FirstNet gets built out in your area, and you trust the stability, you will start to see, probably in 5 years, you'll start to see some jurisdictions wean off of mobile radio. I think Justin pointed out earlier, those radios you see on those guys' hips, $3,000 to $5,000 a piece. Okay, that's serious. you don't even want to know the maintenance on the state label radio system right now. It would blow your mind. So this will merge. But what it does is it changes the way everyone operates. It changes the way that public safety has to think about this. And again, it's becoming a cross-section of not just police, fire, EMS. It's really everything. When we went to the city of Aurora to talk about FirstNet, you know who's making the call? We have the police and fire chiefs in there. And they said, don't talk to us. And they pointed to their CIO. And they said, talk to her. They said, she's the one that's going to tell us which way to go on this. Because their CIO has basically integrated all this across their city. So all their public works, all their public schools, everything that is a public response is integrated through the city. And so it doesn't touch just one thing. So what I'm going to do here, we recently had the privilege of having a presentation from So this is actual radio traffic from the Aurora Theater Studio. And we had a presentation, the incident commander who's in charge of that night goes around giving his presentation, and it's about a 4-hour presentation. He steps you through literally the first 911 call to the very end. We have about a 2-hour condensed version of this. But so this is the actual traffic, the Waymo radio traffic from the event. I'm going to play just like a minute of it because I want to kind of, I think it drives home what we're talking about in a real bad situation here.
Available officer in here. Any more officers inside at 8 or 9? Mother, we got the back covered and the south side covered. We got another person out that shot only a female. I got people running out of the theater that are shot in room 9. Copy, we'll let rescue know about start more people. 3, you got another victim on the north side of the theater in the parking lot. Copy, north side in the parking lot. Do we have gas masks available? Any gas masks tonight? Get them in the night. Any units that can bring gas masks to theater 9, again, we need gas masks. Lincoln 25. I'm being told that he's in theater 9. From what I'm smelling inside, it sounds like it's OC maybe too. Get us some damn gas masks for theater 9. We can't get in it. We're letting rescue know as well. He's on the east side of the block. East side. I need officers on the east side of the block. 3-2, I got an airmail shot. I'm going to need rescue right in front of the theater by Dillard, right off the main road. I think I'm going to do it. I'm not sure where they're going to be. 14, we have like 40 in the car shot. 243, John and Hubert. Okay, copy. There's another victim in the light here. Where is that vehicle at? Lincoln 25. I need a rescue. This street in the west parking lot. I need at least 3 or 4 ambulances brought in here. Everybody staged in the west parking lot by the.
All right, so what are the keys we heard there? We heard, one, you kind of heard the growing frustration as things kind of escalated. It went from, okay, we got this, to what the heck is going on. You heard west side, east side, Dillard's. You heard Orient is here. You heard information just being flown around there. And all that, there's one dispatcher that was trying to do all that. And you hear them repeat it, that's what they're told to do. And so when you hear that in the after action, you're like, imagine if we could have posted up, a map. And so, okay, here's where we want the people. Here's where we need this. Okay, here's where diligent are. There are 27 jurisdictions that responded to that event that night. Some of them knew exactly where it is. That theater is actually right down the street from where my wife grew up. But can you imagine someone coming in and saying, "Go to the Dillard's"? Well, where in the hell is the Dillard's? I see a big mall. Okay. Luckily, that didn't happen. But that, to me, that shows the limitations of mobile radio. And it's not a limitation of first responders, it's a limitation of the communications they've had. And now all of a sudden we're dumping this new thing on them. And it's really, really difficult for them to kind of figure out how do we make this work. And it's going to take some time to figure that out and really implement it. So let's see here. And let's talk us about this. So what are we talking about? Really, we're talking about a critical communications network. At the core of this is an IP network. And when I do this presentation for rural broadband audiences, I talk about the needs for communities to create that fiber network. Ideally fiber, maybe some microwave in there, to create that backbone. Because all this is really data transferring back and forth between communities, or back and forth even between Denver and a community, and really flowing through it. And then what you see out here is you see all these inputs to this. They might be wired, they might be wireless, they might be LTE, they might be LMR, they might be Wi-Fi. But the point is that it's now a cacophony of information coming in, and we've got to process it. And before we can process it, we got to get it to the right place, and we got to make sure it's transferred. We've got to make sure the 911 call in traffic. I mean, imagine, when Aurora happened, it was midnight. So when during the presentation I talked about, thank God, there was 2 hospitals within 5 minutes of this place. And so when the cops started literally throwing people in the back of their car because the ambulances hadn't got there yet, they were 5 minutes from the hospital. Imagine this had happened at 5 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, okay? The outcome would not have been the same, okay? Unless they can work with traffic control and say, okay guys, start rerouting people off this highway, get this route shut down now so that we can get people to the hospital. These are the kind of things we have to start thinking about, when we think about what this revolution brings us. So how do we make it happen? I always love this quote. Because this is a guy from DEC, and I think everyone here is old enough to know what DEC was. But this is the guy who founded one of the first technology companies. And even he got it really, really wrong. I joke and I say, I'd love to go back and ask him, what do you think about ever having a computer in a pocket? What do you think about that? So the point is, we don't know how this is gonna all fold out. We're actually pretty bad at figuring out future technology. But one of the things we can do is start thinking systemically. And again, this is going to be really hard for public safety because they've been trained to think in silos. But what they need to do, and I think they're open to do with some help, is start thinking across and start thinking more as a system, as a response system, as a public safety, critical communications infrastructure system. Individual agencies must work with everyone else. A firefighter must understand why the utility, why the sewer company, why the transportation, why RTD is important to them. Because they need to get some people out of a place. RTD might have a bus there and get those people out of there. So they got to start thinking holistically, which again, they're not opposed to, it's just new to them. And so in your communities, you can kind of help them do that through your CIO's office, through your community meetings, and get people involved. There's a whole lot more to this this is just the tip of the iceberg. We talk a lot about all this data sharing back and forth. Well, the thing is, any data that goes through law enforcement, there's a lot of requirements on that. There's called CGIS, there's all these FBI issues. So how can I take data from a police officer and share it with a school bus officer? There's a lot of legal issues there that we have to work through. And that's not even talking about the local issues, okay? I know school districts are, being hit with, you've got to wall off your data because we don't want access to all these children. We don't want children's data to be out there. That's great. Well, but we probably would like to share that data in an event with a firefighter or a paramedic or something like that. So how do we figure out these agreements between the local police department and the local school district? Because school districts are independent entities. They're not part of the city or a county. They're completely separate. Most fire departments are actually special districts. Again, completely outside of a local jurisdiction or a county. So how do we get all these data sharing agreements between multiple folks? And oh, by the way, cybersecurity. There's a lot of bad people trying to get into this data. So how do we figure that out? So there's a lot of issues we have to do about looking into that and developing cross-functional visions. Again, there has to be a champion at a local level that basically says, okay guys, here's what we want to do. Here's how we want our response to be. Here's how we want our daily response to be to an average day call. And here's how we want our response to be to the next really bad thing. Whether that's cheap man-made or natural-made. How do we cross-function this and how do we train for it? How do we create the critical communications necessary to react properly? And then public-private partnerships. Again, when you look at some of the private sector elements of this, we can't make this happen without the combination of the rural broadband efforts and the public safety efforts. All the efforts we're talking about here at Now Connect to try to get communities connected. That is the infrastructure. So if you have a local jurisdiction that has a public-private partnership with someone to come into their town and build a municipal network, part of that vision has to be, okay, public-private partner, we are including public safety on this. Okay, that is part of the plan when we go out to these communities and say, let's figure this out for our residents and our economic growth. Let's also figure this out for public safety. And so those folks that are doing that can play a big role in this moving forward. And the last thing I'll close with, we have to collaborate and innovate. It's fairly, people in technology are, again, it's one of the, yes, we have to do that. But at a local level, governments vary in their ability to innovate and collaborate. Again, especially in our state where we tend to be independent-minded. And one city, will tell the other city 10 miles down the road they don't know what they're doing, and vice versa, and they don't talk. We got to get past that. So from a public perspective, we got to get past this idea that we can stand alone and we don't need help. That was the other poignant thing the lieutenant at the Aurora shooting he said we're Aurora. He said we don't ask for help, we go help. And that's true. And folks that have been in public safety in the metropolitan area, Denver and Aurora are probably the two entities that they usually don't ask for mutual aid. Everyone else, Ardata, Lakewood, Centennial, all those entities, they ask for help a lot because they need it. They know they can't do it on their own. Aurora and Denver usually don't. So he said that was a game changer for us. The fact that we're Aurora and we had to ask for help. That never really crossed our minds to ask that we were going to need to ask for help and this much help. So you've got to at a local jurisdiction level figure that out and plan for this. And then on the innovation side, that's where the private sector I think can come in and some of the technology. So the technology companies, when you come in, don't just slap everything down there and tell them how great this GWiz thing is and focus on the features and benefits and do all this great stuff. Sit down and work with those jurisdictions to say, here's how we can solve your problems. What problems do you have? Okay, I as a technology company, I can't solve all your problems, but I can solve this one problem really well for you. And then if another company can solve that problem, we can figure this out together and really put together a systemic approach to this so that in the end, it operates much more smoothly in the future. So that's it. That's the point of the rest of my presentation. And at this point, we'll open it up to questions either on kind of this big idea or specific questions on FirstNet, what we started with. So,
So out in rural Colorado, we don't even have all the 800 megahertz radios functioning. And I've got questions from our first responders about how do we even get that to work before we start trying to figure out what it. We have to have dual frequency radios at this point.
Yeah, so the question is, in the rural areas, 800 megahertz, which is what most of your local radio networks are on. That transition only started about 7 years ago? Yeah, about 7 years ago. So a lot of folks in the rural areas are saying, good grief, we're not even done transitioning to 800 megahertz for local radio, now you're throwing this on top of us? What the heck? And oh, by the way, I can't even afford to pay my deputies. They come in on their own time sometimes because, we can't afford to pay them, overtime. And that, you are absolutely right. And that's what we want to do as part of our process is sit down and figure that out. And as I mentioned, land-mobile radio, especially in the rural areas, will be around for a long time. You are starting to see dual frequency radios. Both Motorola Harris and Kenwood, JVC Kenwood are making radios now that will work on LTE and LMR. So the market is adapting. The market is understanding, okay, we've got to figure this out and help these folks down the road. Now, unfortunately, those devices are probably still $4,000 a piece. But to me, what we can do is sit down and figure out, all right, how do we bridge it? How do we get the network to work so that you can you don't need to buy 10 $5,000 radios, you buy five $5,000 radios, and you can buy a bunch of other devices that are cheaper, and we can augment this. And where do you have land-mobile radio? Where do you need LTE? So I don't have an easy answer for that question, unfortunately. It is an issue that we face, and the powers that be kind of went down that path, and we have to react. So,
So where are we with CDOT fiber? How are they going to play into this? And will there ever be any open access on CDOT fiber?
Yeah, we work a lot with CDOT, and one of the misconceptions, CDOT does not actually have that much fiber that they own. Really most of CDOT's fiber is I-79-25 and C-417. I know they are working. I know Miriam's working with the Southwest Part to get more CDOT fiber there. Shaylin, the CDOT director, has been very receptive to this. We just kind of have to work through it. So it is something that the Broadband office is working on a lot, trying to figure out how can we do it. We're looking at things such as the Highway 34 rebuild or Cottonwood Pass as kind of a Kickstarter to that to say, okay, let's finally crack this nut of how do we get open access to that fiber with all the constraints that are there. So I know I said that before, but we are making progress on that, so. Eric?
Would CDOT be open to partnerships where maybe other entities provide the way to vision multiplexing to make it a little less burdensome for them?
I can't speak for them, for CDOT. I think all I can say is that they are, Shayla and his team are very open to understanding that, as I mentioned, he's the one that says, I cannot build anymore. We are not widening I-25 anymore. We're not widening I-70. And oh, by the way, there's 47% increase in traffic in the next 20 years. So we got to figure out technology. So I think he's being very pragmatic in that he needs to be open, but I can't speak specifically for him, so.
We're in the process of transitioning to DTRS and our building infrastructure, towers and sites. And I'm battling with the Forest Service who really would like to eliminate some of these communication sites, as well as we're dealing with the fear, I'm going to call it, of cellular service being provided into the wilderness. Is there anything within the FirstNet, just what your needs are, that we can include in some of our Forest Service documentation that says this is needed for the future?
Actually, absolutely. So as part of FirstNet, when the initiative was passed, President Obama at the time signed an executive order that basically told all the agencies, you will, when it comes to FirstNet, you will figure out how to make, I mean, we still have to go through the processes, but the order said, you will figure out how to make this easier. So absolutely. You know, if you're doing work on the towers, we want to know that, because one, we want to tell you, put extra capacity on there for the future. But yeah, we can, if we can tie that into FirstNet, we can work with that. And Sam from Senator Gardner's office was here yesterday at our local technology planning team meeting, and that was one of our takeaways was, as a state, we want to work to kind of coordinate with both senators' office about figuring out how to implement this and how to actually take that executive order from you guys need to do this to let's put this in place, you know, so that we can start solving some of these problems.
So do you have some statistics or bullet points that we can take and say, here's why this is important, so we can make that part of our application process?
I don't think we have anything prepared right now, but that's a great point, and I think we could put something together pretty quick that talks about the increasing need. We can talk about FirstNet in general in terms of the initiative and the effort to get increased coverage. We can talk about the need for additional towers, tower utilization to get that coverage. So get in touch with us and let us. Yeah, that's a good idea. So.
Brian, would you clarify what kind of input you're looking for local governments for FirstNet and where that should be directed?
So as I mentioned, we're kind of trying to create like this toolkit. So as soon as we get that done and we get our state plan, we will be distributing that through mostly public safety entities, but we're also looking for CML, CCI, kind of those contacts and getting it out. So what it'll be is essentially a toolkit where it'll analyze the state plan and say, okay, here's all the parameters of this. You tell us, are you likely to do this? We're hoping to have cost. One of the things, if you're a current Verizon customer and you have 1,000 vehicles, well, there's a cost to switch out your entire fleet to FirstNet/AT&T. So, that you can look at that. You can tell us, hey, we really like the coverage, but you know what? It's going to be 2 years before our next capital, so that we can actually do this. So that will tell us, okay, this jurisdiction likes the idea, but it might be a couple years before they adopt.
So that toolkit, is that going to come in the term of like a self-assessment tool?
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's kind of like, we want you as local jurisdictions, you tell us, okay, this looks good, this doesn't look good, this looks kind of okay, you tell us what your likelihood for adoption is, and then we're going to roll that up to our governing body and basically say, okay, governing body, here's all the input, that we received. These guys love it. These folks don't like it. These guys think it's workable if we just make a couple tweaks. And then basically what we'll do is make an overall decision and say, okay, which way do we go? Yes, sir.
How do you feel some of the rural broadband studies? Do you think they're doing a good job or not so good job regarding combining the rural broadband studies with public safety, public service?
When we started the rural broadband efforts, both of these were kind of really nascent in their development. We started those rural broadband projects planning 3.5 years ago. And I intentionally kind of left them, I separated them, one, because I wasn't sure at the time. There were a lot of issues with FirstNet in terms of what direction is it going to go. The board was in flux. So I didn't want to complicate things. but we are actually starting to work towards that. So to answer your question, the ones that have been completed, there's probably not a lot of thought in terms of public safety, but that's what we want to do moving forward. You know, I think it will be fairly easy, and we've done some pilots. I was out in Wendell's neck of the woods, and we had the county commissioners and some public safety folks in there, and had this great conversation about combining, and it went very well. So I think, you know, the rural public safety folks have realized that, you know, through the constraints of money and resources, they need help. And so I think they are open to looking at this more holistically and actually being able to say, we need help, guys, to figure this out. So that's kind of what we want to do with this whole effort of FirstNet, opt in, opt out, whatever it happens to be, is use this as a mechanism to start to do just that. Start to say, okay, we've got some folks doing this rural broadband stuff, we're actually seeing implementation. Now let's kind of fold in the need of public safety. You know, honestly, we in the state need to get our business in line. The 911 effort has been, what would be the right word to use, Lynn? Complicated and not having a lot of progress. And so before we can really figure out what we do, you know, the 911 community in the state have to figure out what is that going to look like? What is next gen 911 going to actually look like before we start asking you guys to be part of this process. So, yeah. Other questions? Excellent. Well, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. Please feel free to reach out to Kim, Ed, Sarah, myself with any additional questions. So.